What if passing the New York State Teacher Certification exams or the NYSTCE didn't have to feel overwhelming? If you're feeling anxious about preparing for such a detailed exam, you're not alone. Welcome to Everything Teacher channel. My name is Donita and I'm a test prep expert and teacher certification advisor with study.com. Today, I'm sharing my top 10 tips to help you walk into the NYSTCE Multi-Subject Teachers of Childhood exam grades 1 through 6 test codes 221, 222, and 245 with real confidence and a winning strategy. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to approach your prep, manage your time, and avoid the common mistakes that trip up many test takers. All right, let's get right into it. Tip number 1, understand the exam structure inside and out. Know exactly what you're walking into. In terms of the format, the NYSTCE Multi-Subject Teachers of Childhood exam is 3 separate tests, not one large exam. There's Part 1, Test Code 221 for Literacy and ELA, Part 2, Test Code 222 in Mathematics, and Part 3, Test Code 245 for Arts and Sciences. Each part has its own passing score, 520. You must pass each part separately. There is no averaging scores between sections. If you fail one part, you only need to retake that specific section, but you can't combine your scores from different parts of the test. Understanding the structure helps you plan smarter so that you can assess which parts you're weak on, and so that you can focus your study efforts on the sections that you need the most work. Tip number 2, practice full-length test for real stamina. This exam is on the longer side, over 5 hours total if you're taking all 3 parts in one sitting. Endurance matters alongside of using one's knowledge when taking an exam. Start preparing for full-length practice tests early in your preparation. It's not just about answering questions, it's about building the mental focus to stay sharp across several hours. Simulate real test conditions whenever possible. Same timing, no interruptions, no extra resources beyond what's allowed, in a quiet area to work hard in. Think of it like you're training for a marathon. You wouldn't just jog around the block and call it good. Same goes for this exam. Practice is definitely going to get you close to that finish line. Managing your time wisely can also make a huge difference come test day. This leads me to my 3rd tip. Know the time you have per question. The NYSTCE Multi-Subject Teachers of Childhood exam parts 1, 2, and 3 are timed separately, so practice your timing by test part. Since part 1 has 40 multiple choice and 1 essay question, aim to spend the first hour on the multiple choice section, spending no more than 1 minute and 30 seconds per question, so you have approximately 40 minutes to construct your essay and a remaining 20 minutes to check your test answers. For part 2, you'll have 2 hours and 15 minutes on the clock for 40 multiple choice questions and 1 essay question. Aim to answer each multiple choice question in 1 minute and 50 seconds. Aim to spend 40 minutes on the constructed response section and 20 minutes to check your answers. Lastly, for part 3, spend no more than 1 minute and 20 seconds per item so you can have some time to check your answers or go back to any items you're not sure of in the last 8 to 10 minutes. A great way to practice these time management skills is to use a timer during practice sessions to get used to this pacing. Start by attempting to answer specific number practice questions within a limited time frame so you can get used to the pacing. On exam day, if a question feels tough, flag it. Move on and come back if you have time. Don't let one tricky question slow you down. Constructed response sections on the NYSTCE aren't just about your writing skills, they're required to closely evaluate student work samples. Tip number 4 is all about sharpening your ability to analyze student output. In part 1 for literacy and part 2 for math, you'll probably be shown a piece of student work and asked to explain what the student did well, what mistakes they made, and what you do to help them improve. It's not just about spotting the error, it's about showing that you know how to teach through it. A great way to prep for this is by practicing with student sample work. Try explaining out loud or in writing what the student was thinking, where they went off track, and what kind of support or instruction you offered next. Look at some sample responses in test prep books or study guides to see how strong answers are structured. The more you practice this skill now, the more confident you'll feel when it shows up on test day. Here's something that's really important to understand going into this test. Since the NYSTCE is a New York State certification exam, your answers need to reflect the New York State P through 12 learning standards. These are the backbone of what you're expected to teach in the classroom. These standards outline what students should be learning at each grade level in subjects like literacy and science, and they show up all throughout the exam in both multiple choice and the constructed response sections. For example, a literacy standard for grade 3 might require students to determine the main idea and explain how it is supported by key details. If you're analyzing a student's reading response, you'll want to refer to that standard when identifying strengths or suggested next steps. In math, a grade 4 standard might involve using place value understanding to round multi-digit whole numbers, which could come up when diagnosing an error in a student's computation work. When you review these standards ahead of time, you're better prepared to write responses that are specific, grade appropriate, and instructionally sound. No calculators are allowed during the math subtest, so tip number 6 is practice without a calculator. That's right, even for complex multi-step problems, you'll need to rely on mental math, estimation, and scratch work. During preparation, practice solving problems by hand and using strategies like estimating before calculating, double-checking work through reverse operations, and simplifying fractions and decimals manually. The more comfortable you are without a calculator, the faster and more confident you'll feel on test day. It's easy to focus mostly on literacy and language arts and math tests since they feel bigger, but don't neglect the science and social studies section in part 3. You'll face questions on topics like scientific inquiry and experiments, life, earth, and physical sciences, geography, U.S. history, world history, civics, and economics. Brush up on scientific practices and review how elementary students are expected to engage with historical concepts and maps. Even though Part 3 is 100% multiple choice, it's still critical to securing your certification. Tip number 8, focus on test-taking strategies, not just content. Yes, knowing the material is important, but test day success is also about utilizing smart strategies. Work on skills like quickly eliminating obvious wrong multiple choice answers, skimming passages for key details instead of reading every word, and making educated guesses when needed. Making use of helpful test-taking strategies can often earn you a few extra points, and sometimes those few points are the difference between passing and retaking a section. Taking practice tests is important, but reviewing your mistakes is where the real growth happens. Tip number 9 is to review your practice test feedback. Every time you take a practice test or quiz, don't check on your score and move on. Take a few minutes afterwards to look closely at the questions you missed. What kind of mistakes did you make? What was your reasoning when you chose the wrong answer? By breaking down your errors and spotting patterns, whether it's content you didn't fully understand or a type of question you tend to misread, you can adjust your study plan and focus on the areas that really need work. Finally, and maybe most importantly, tip number 10, build confidence step by step. Confidence isn't just about having a positive mindset. It comes from putting in the work and seeing real results over time. The more you study, the more familiar the content becomes. As you tackle practice tests, review feedback, and learn from your mistakes, you're training yourself not to just pass the test, but to handle everything it throws your way. That's why it's so important to recognize and celebrate the small wins along the way. Maybe you finished a time section without rushing, caught a grammar mistake you used to miss, or wrote out a more organized essay than last time. These small steps may not seem huge at the moment, but they're proof that you're growing and they add up. Well, there you have it. My top 10 tips for crushing the NYSTCE Multi-Subject Teachers of Childhood exam, grades 1 through 6. This test may be long and detailed, but with targeted strategies, focused practice, and a little bit of daily progress, you can absolutely pass it and move one step closer to your dream of being in the classroom. Thanks for tuning in. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with fellow future educators. Drop a comment below if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to help. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, stay focused, positive, and keep believing in yourself. The students are waiting.